Welcome back to the watch list. Our panel is ready to talk all about the tech sector. Dryden Pence, Chief Investment Officer, Pence Capital Management, and Young-Yu Ma, Chief Investment Officer at BMO Wealth Management. Thank you both for being here. Dryden, I'll start with you. So much concern about tech. Someone like Dan Ives has said this has set us back a decade. He certainly seemed extremely he was disconcerted on Friday about what this means. In the meantime, I'm seeing Apple here, some notes that Apple will change some of its production over to India, where there's half the tariffs that there are in China. What do you make of it all?
Well, I mean, this is at this moment, this is kind of the fog of the global trade war. And if companies are changing their behaviors to where they're producing, what they're doing, and how they're doing, that's exactly what the Trump administration was wanting to have happen. Either countries are going to negotiate on tariffs and do the foreign policy things that he's looking for and economic policy things he's looking for, or companies are going to be encouraged to move to other countries where they are. So the problem is time. Everybody is, the decision-making process is very, very truncated, but the implementation process takes a while. And I think that is what this push-me-pull-you that's going on in the markets. How quickly can people and countries and everybody adjust? So I'm not near as negative on this as Dan Ives is. I think that basically companies are going to adjust. And more importantly, you have a lot of countries that are beginning to say, yes, we'll begin to negotiate. And I think that was the administration's target.
All right, Young-Yu Ma, good to see you. Glad you're here. Of BMO, thank you for being here. Your thoughts on the tech sector? There are folks who are seeing it beaten down and say maybe there's opportunity here. What say you?
Thanks. It's great to be here. I think a lot of the drivers that were in place prior to the tariffs will still be in place and ultimately be the dominant force after a lot of this shakes out. I do think there are some bargains to be had, but I think there are a few questions now, given this new tariff regime, is one, which companies have potential to see profit margins squeeze or more difficulty in terms of whether it's shifting production or geographies in terms of where they generate their profits. If that is at risk, I think there is a new calculus at hand. But overall, the major trends are going to stay largely the way they were. And we do think that the first wave of the selling in the tech sector was everything goes down. And the second wave is some of the more stronger names, which we'll probably see during earnings season, start to stabilize and hold up a lot better. So I do think there are bargains to be had, but that doesn't mean right now it's wholesale bargains out there.
So what kind of names would you be buying? Let's go over that. I mean, there are names that may be most exposed to tariffs that you want to stay away from and others that may be best positioned. Dryden, what would you maybe buy today or you're watching to buy soon?
Sure. We're looking at companies that are least affected by tariffs. I mean, the entire market was taken down by this. Everybody kind of threw the baby out with the bathwater as what we believe is an overreaction. And so when you look at companies like Meta, we have a forward PE of 20. They basically get 44% of their revenues within the United States. Or you look at Salesforce with a PE of 22 now, where they're getting significant revenues in the United States, and even Google. So companies that have a lot of their revenues in the United States that are more in the software realm and area, they are going to be least affected by these tariffs. And so they've been most affected by the overreaction. They'll be least affected by the tariffs. And so we think that there's opportunities in this. We've always said you want to take advantage of volatility and not be its victim.
Yeah, and Young-Yu, what would you say? Are there names that you like that may have potential opportunities, or on the other side, the ones that are so much exposed that you wouldn't touch it?
Well, I think the advice you just heard is very sound advice, that thinking about the names, I don't do individual stock picking, but thinking about the names that fit that profile, that are more exposed to the U.S., that are not likely to have margins shrunk in terms of what they're importing, that tend to be software focused or have intellectual property that is very robust and has a big moat around it. I think those are the names that you want to look for. The ones that could be subject to tariffs, perhaps rely on China more, perhaps would have profit margins squeezed due to tariffs and a shifting regime where they might have to shift production around, and it's uncertain how much of those new costs could be passed on to consumers. I think that's where you want to be more cautious here. That doesn't mean that bargains can't eventually show up, but probably the first wave where everything goes down, you want to look at those things that are actually going to be least affected in this new environment.
Yeah, and you mentioned, by the way, Dryden, thank you for that, Young-Yu. You mentioned Meta, Salesforce, Google as your picks. Also things that are in the software realm. Anything hardware? Or you're just waiting to see on that?
I think you have to wait on the hardware, because right now we're waiting for negotiations to take place. Who's going to come to the table first? What's going to actually happen? So the math is very foggy at this moment. So I think you have to wait a little bit on hardware, but I think we're probably in a period of time where fairly soon you're going to see some key responses from either the White House or the various countries. I mean, I think there is a trade war. China's the target. That's the primary enemy. So I think you have to look at things that are not going to be heavily affected by China. Those are the things that will probably recover more quickly, and those that are based within the United States.
Yeah. All right, folks. Well, the VIX is creeping higher. Stocks are selling off. The Dow is dropping now somewhat precipitously as I'm speaking to you. Glad you were all with us. Dryden Pence, Young-Yu Ma, thank you both for being here, and thanks for being with me. I'm Nicole Petalides.